Hello everyone, I'd like to share a devotion with you entitled Always Enough. And I'd like to talk about how God provided for the children of Israel while they were in the wilderness, as recorded in Exodus chapter 16, and how that applies to us today as children of God. So they obviously left, second scene, they left the Egypt, and when they went to Promised Land, and they were in the wilderness for 40 years, and while they were there, God fed them using manna. Now, the numbers, figures say there was probably between 1-2 million of them. And they had this substance falling from heaven every day, and they would go out and sort of take as much as they needed. They were given certain instructions. For example, only take a particular amount depending on how many people that they were residing in their tent. And if they took too much or too little, it always seemed to be enough. They weren't meant to leave any to go over to the next day, because if they tried to do that, it would stink, it would go off, and it would just get full of worms. It would just be bread worms. So you really had to trust for the next day. So I'd go out for the next day and get enough for that day. Apart from the day before the Sabbath, because they weren't really meant to be working on the Sabbath. So the day before the Sabbath, they were instructed to collect twice as much as they would normally collect. And when they had the bits left over at the end of the day, when they came back the next day on the Sabbath day, it wouldn't go off, and it would be enough for the Sabbath. Notwithstanding that instruction, some people still tried to go on the Sabbath to collect some, and they didn't find any. So, what points can we take away from God's relationship with his children in the wilderness, and how he taught them about provision? Firstly, we don't always fully understand how God provides for us. Manna, the Hebrew word behind manna means, what is it? They didn't actually understand what it was or where it came from. They knew it came from God, but they didn't know what it was. And a lot of times when God provides for us, we don't fully understand how he does so. Sometimes we might fool ourselves into thinking we're in control of the situation and we got it all together, until sort of things begin to unravel and we realize we really need to depend on God. But we always need to be in that attitude, not get in a state of pride, thinking that we're in control. God is who we need to depend on for our provision. Also, we need to always trust that he will always have enough available for us. They have to trust for that day's needs, and trust that without keeping any over for the next day, God will provide for the next day. So God is trying to teach them total dependence on himself, and not in the things they had accumulated, not trusting in the possessions. God might have blessed you, you might be relatively well off, but don't trust in those possessions. God wants you not to continue to trust in him. Use the things he's blessed you with to do things that he's instructed you to do with, and don't trust in them in and of themselves. It's very important to do that. We also see how God fully nourished them to survive in the wilderness. So 40 years, they were nourished with manna. Yes, they did have quail meat every evening as well. That was another provision I gave to them. But it's instructive to learn that the manna kept falling every day until the first day when they started eating of the fruit of the promised land. So when they actually got into the land of Canaan and started eating of the fruit of the land, the manna stopped. So God's provision changed from manna and quail meat, and changed to eating of the fruit of the land. And that can happen with us. God can change the source of our provision. He can change the way he provides, but the provider still remains the same. So bear that in mind. God always wants to provide enough for you, but he wants you to understand that he's the source and he's the provision, and for you to realize that. God bless you.